come up with my motion for the urgent need of the federal government to complete Kagara Dam and 1 million gallon water treatment plants. 19 other senators are co-sponsoring this motion. The Senate knows that Kagara Dam was first conceived and awarded by Niger State government to Kano State-based company Rekai in 1992, with the sole purpose of providing potable water and irrigation need to Kagara people and its environs to cover approximately 1,000 hectares. Further notes that because of its importance, the project was taken over by the federal government and awarded to Bywater Shalabia Nigeria Limited in December 1992 at the cost of 199,222,596 naira. Aware that the contract suffered so many neglects and abandonments because of lack of substantial funds, which necessitated its renegotiation in the year 2001 at the cost of 2,219,746,244 naira 75 kobo. Cognizance that in spite of the fact that the overall completion stage of the work stood at 68% in the year 2006, the contractor has stopped work again because of lack of substantial fund release. Concerned that because of the delay and eventual inflationary rates of cost of materials, the Upper Niger River Basin Development Authority, which is the supervising agency, issued a revised estimated cost to complete the project in the year 2010, running to 5,555,416,689 naira 78 kobo. 78 kobo. They stop that if this project continues to be operated in a stop-and-go manner, the dream of our people for potable water and economic empowerment through irrigation farming will remain a mirage. And the regret that if the urgent action is not taken, the purpose of taking over the project by the federal government in December 1992 and subsequent budgetary allocation as well as the extent of work done will have been a waste. And this will have adverse effects on the food security of the nation. Accordingly, the Senate should resolve to mandate its Committee on Water Resources to investigate the misery behind the delay in the execution of the projects since the negotiation in the year 2001, despite budgetary allocations over the years, and report back to the Senate for appropriate action. To call on the federal government to consider the socio-economic importance of the project to the life of the people and the extent of the work done so far, and see to the completion of the project without further delay. And 3, make such further order as it deems fit in the circumstances to facilitate the realization of the objective of this motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to second this motion, which is moved by my brother, distinguished Senator Musa Mohammed Sani. Indeed, the issue of water, like we all know, water is life. And where there is no water, definitely the quality of life will be very low. This subject has been going on for quite a while, as he has rightly pointed out. And it is something that is very dear and critical to the livelihood of our citizenry. I support totally the need for this project to be completed for the obvious benefit. And most importantly, let me point out that this area is rich in mineral resources. And without having a project of this nature for people to have clean water, Our people in that area are definitely suffering. You all recall, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that we had a motion in this hallowed chamber by distinguished Senator Sahabiya, which was talking about, lead poisoning. There was lead poisoning in that area, and this is no thanks to the challenges.
Minority leader, minority will please stop disturbing Yai. Stop disturbing Senator Adiola.
Mr. President, I therefore want to urge my colleagues to support this very timely motion because it is very straightforward. And as a Senate, our commitment to our people is to guarantee that they have quality livelihood. And the subject of this motion is talking about water. There is nothing you can talk about in terms of the quality of life without talking about water. So I support this, and I urge my colleagues to support this motion in total. With these few comments, Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity.
My name is Senator Lilian. I represent Anambra Central. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. President, here we are talking about another abandoned project. Looking at this motion alone, you can see that this project was awarded in 1992 by the state government and was taken over by federal government the same year because of the importance of this project. We are 27 years after. 27 years after. We are still talking about how to complete a project that started 27 years ago. Mr. President, this is about policy somersaulting, and it is about successive governments not adhering to the projects started by their predecessors. Mr. President, this project was awarded at 199 million. Today, we are talking about valuation of 5-point-something billion. What a waste. In 8th Senate, Mr. President, I introduced a particular bill, Project Monitoring Agency, to be an independent agency that will take charge of all the ongoing projects in all the ministries, because the agency will be an independent agency from the agencies that awarded projects in this country, so that successive governments, as they are coming in, it will be the duty of this agency to hand over all the ongoing projects, to enable the successive governments to know that the projects of their predecessors should be continued and completed. Mr. President, nobody pays attention to the work of their predecessors. We must begin to get our leadership responsible for certain things. Once a new government is coming in place, that government must know that it is mandatory, not a matter of choice, that they must continue with the laudable projects their predecessors started. Even if we do the entire motion, it has to do with funding. Governments usually put funds to areas and sectors where they think are important to their administration. We may move the whole of this motion, take all the nays and all the support, but at the end of the day, what happens? If 27 years we are still talking about completing a dam, then how many years more can this project be completed? So it's not about moving the motion or accepting the motion or supporting the motion. It is about when will it be done. Is this important to this present administration? Is there a budgetary provision for this? When will this project be completed? And what is the even variation? Is it the original contractor that is still doing a project of 27 years? Are you sure the contractor is even still alive? I mean, it's difficult to even understand this particular project. To me, I am suggesting that this project should be terminated and start all over again. Thank you, Mr. President.
My name is Senator Ibrahim Hassan Adeja, Jigawa Northeast. Mr. President, I rise to support this motion for two reasons. One is the fact that this project is not only meant to provide potable water, but it's also bringing about 1,000 hectares of land under irrigation. And Mr. President, 1,000 hectares of land brought under irrigation means 3 croppings a year. So the impact on the economy of that environment is better imagined. I'm a witness to this. We have an irrigation project in my senatorial zone, and the local governments that fall under that irrigation area are today the richest local governments in my state. Secondly, Mr. President, I think this is a very timely motion because in the last 4 years, most of the major projects undertaken by the Ministry of Water Resources have been completion. Dams are very, very expensive, and I think the minister wisely decided to just identify what is already on ground and try to complete as many as he can. And the Kagara Dam story is no different from most of the other dams that you find all across the state. In my own case, the irrigation project I'm talking about has been under construction for 40 years. 40 years. And up to now, despite the fact that the dam section of the project has been finished in Kano, the 25,000 hectares that are supposed to have been brought under irrigation, only about 6,000 hectares are in place since the late 70s. We are lucky, I think in the last 2 years, the Minister for Water Resources has added another 800 hectares or so. So I think 1,000 hectares on the completion of this dam, which is small by standards of this work of this nature, it shouldn't be too difficult to bring the attention of the federal government into completing this project, to provide potable water and to provide the community in the area with a means of livelihood. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I think this motion is very straightforward, Mr. President. Mr. President, if you look, the project was awarded in 1992. Then later, the project was also revalidated in 2001, 2 billion, and in 2010 to 5 billion. Mr. President, just like Senator Uche Ikwenife has said, I think that what needs to be done is to send this to the committee, and which I think is in the prayers of this motion, so that the committee can interface with the Ministry of Water Resources with a view to finding out why this project has not been completed, and to see if it's not part of their priority. Maybe now that it has been brought before the Senate, maybe they can look at it and see that they can prioritize it so that this project can be completed like every other. Indeed, it is going to bring about the 100 hectares or so, which will be used for irrigation and other, will be used for farming, which I think that the federal government is also working on ensuring that we go back to agriculture, and this will really boost the economy of the environment and Niger State. So, Mr. President, with these few remarks, I say I want to support this motion, and we should look at the prayer so that we can work on it immediately, and so that the Water Resources Committee can give us their report as soon as possible. Thank you, sir.
I come from Akwa Ibom State and represent Akwa Ibom Northwest Central District. Mr. President of the Senate, if we had watched yesterday on the telly, we would have seen what nature holds for certain nations of the world. I wept, supposing that nation, that drought caught up with them, had also happened to Nigeria. It means that we would have been counting our days. People could not live, animals were dying in good numbers, agricultural products completely decimated. Mr. President, I think it is an issue of priorities. We are so lucky in Nigeria that we have another product that we so depend, and then we forget about agriculture. Aside provision of drinking water, which is a sine qua non to the good living of our people. I think growing agriculture is important. It will also aid in the provisions of wealth creations and employment. So, sir, for a project of this magnitude to be cited or envisioned in 1992 and abandoned because of economic resources calls for critical look. I suffered the same fate with my distinguished colleague of Niger State. In my own senatorial district, we have a dam that was also established about the same time, known as Nkari Dam. It's been abandoned. Even in this year's budget, what is entrenched is only a provision of 105 million, as against 5.5 billion, which the contract has been varied. So we suffer the same fate. I think it's an issue of priority. What do Nigeria want? What does this government that is taking Nigeria to the next level want? This government must show commitment. The Minister of Water Resources must show commitment and align his vision with the vision of the central government, of the president, who have said he wants to take Nigeria to the next level through wealth creation and all other variables that he has stated, which I don't want to mention. But, sir, I want to say that I'm in support of this motion. Particularly, thank God I'm a member, and by the grace of this Senate and you yourself, you positioned me as the Vice Chairman of the Water Resources. I want this motion, every prayer here, to be approved and forwarded to that committee for us to take a critical look, a critical study as to why projects of this magnitude are abandoned without no reference to the central government. And I want to plead that, just like my colleague said, Senator but then I think what we should do is to enforce. The issue is enforcement. That this Senate, after passing a motion, should follow it up to ensure that projects of this nature that affects the lives of the people, that affects the growth of the people, must be implemented by the executive. So, sir, in that wise, I want to say I support the prayers as entrenched in this motion for the acceptability of this distinguished body. Thank you, sir.
Delay in the execution of the projects since the renegotiation of the year 2001 despite budgetary allocations over the years, and report back to the Senate for appropriate action. Any amendment? I have an amendment. Distinguished Senator San Musa, I think mandate is Committee on Water Resources to investigate the misery. We are not going to investigate the misery. We are going to investigate the delay. So we remove the misery and okay, somebody should do it, please. Yeah, Senator Brian. Those in favor of prayer 1 as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, call on the federal government to consider the socio-economic importance of the project to the life of the people and the extent of the work done so far, and see to the completion of the project without further delay. Those in favor of prayer 2, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 3, make such further order as it deems fit in the circumstance to facilitate the realization of the objective of the motion. Who makes the further order? So, Yai, Senator Salam Adiola, you want to? Okay.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleague, I strongly...
1 and 2 have taken care of what that you wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do second my leader for taking the prayer 1 and 2, and then the third prayer can go.
All right, thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Distinguished colleagues, it is very important that we ensure that we continue to oversight whenever we legislate. This kind of project should have been under our scrutiny, under our radar continuously. So, having passed resolutions that we have, we also need to follow it up to ensure that we are informed of the status of this dam and indeed any projects that we have anything to do with. Let me congratulate Senator Ahmed Sani Musa and indeed all our colleagues who have contributed to the debate on this motion. Leader of the Senate.